Anyway, you already know how the deal works in this strange channel. Welcome once again to the Indiana Jones show for the F1. F1 qualifying, F1 free practice, F1 updates, news and gossip and everything. Today we'll be talking about the Catalan Grand Prix for 2022 happening in Barcelona. They call it the Spanish Grand Prix. Well, anyway, depends on the colors. Let's make a quick update for the teams. I already told this one on the video on Friday afternoon. What all the teams were gonna be bringing for this Grand Prix, except for Haas, that in theory they brought nothing. However, you could see they paid the price for that. Anyway, you can pause the video if you want to see more, but we can continue checking a little bit of what we have seen so far of these new updates for the main teams. Let's say Aston Martin is the most significant one, mainly because Red Bull complained of being a copy for all this area. Looks quite the same. I mentioned on the video, it looks very the same, similar. You can call it however you want. However, the FIA already studied this, and they made a research or whatever, and they discovered that Aston Martin was already testing this concept on November on their wind tunnel. November, December, something like this. Therefore, not a copy, unless somebody from Aston Martin was able to get this concept from Red Bull much before that, which that would be intellectual theft. We already lived this in 2008 or 7 when Alonso was in McLaren, something like this, went to Ferrari, and what happened with a huge economical fine and all these things. What else do we have? This is the previous car. You can see the big difference in this body area concept, also on the floor. This is the comparison. I already showed these pictures on Friday. So anyway, this might be a little bit different, but the way they channel the wind through this area is very much the same. Now we know it's not the same, it's similar. You can see some pictures of the floor. This is not a very clear one, but anyway, how this bumps. A lot of teams have been introducing some bumps here to channel the wind in a different way. This kind of stuff here could be a sensor or not. Some teams have sensors there. This one actually doesn't look like it's part of the bodywork, but a sensor itself. Some cuts, bits and flaps here and there. This is the air intake, which actually looks like the one that they were using before, didn't change that much. And it's not very similar from the Red Bull. The Red Bull actually has something longer here. And a rear wear spec for high downforce race trucks. You can see this is much more upwards than the other ones. Some teams are also changing these kind of things for the DRS and the air channeling for the rigidity of the rear wing. Blah blah blah. Mercedes, one of the biggest winners of this upgrade season here in Barcelona. We already showed this one, how they are channeling. However, one of the biggest things that are happening are behind here, and especially down here, which we will show a picture right now. This little flap over here, some teams have been putting in the cars, this kind of extra flap for the wing. Looks like it can move or flex with the bouncing, the porpoising, or whichever the vibrations from the asphalt or whatever, which looks like allows the car to go a little bit lower and obviously gain some extra performance on the track. Looks like it worked. McLaren, Mercedes were fast on FP2, FP3, and in qualifying there was 0.6 from Leclerc's pole position. But if you see, apart from Leclerc and Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz P3 was 0.4 from Leclerc, and you can see that Russell, for example, is 0.2 away from Sainz. Therefore, we could assume that perhaps not this race, but maybe in another race, Mercedes could be a challenge for one of the 4 cars that are in front of them, probably Sainz and Perez. If they make a good start, who knows? Maybe they can get a podium by their own merit without waiting for people to retire, right? You can see all these little wavy things, this little flap. Mercedes is not the only one that has this flap, by the way. There are many teams that have this flap, but this, for example, it's not straight, it's bendy, and they also have these extra wings that look higher than Red Bulls, for example, or Ferraris. I didn't see another team that has such a high thing here in the front wing. However, this one, it's not straight anymore, it's kind of bendish like this. Everything is to channel the wind through the front wheel and to channel the wind in the way they want for the rest of the car to try to make it more efficient and, of course, dynamite the porpoising effect. Now, here comes the biggest thing that perhaps didn't get noticed by most of the eyes on the paddock. This little wing here. Of course, it provokes downforce, but it also channels the wind through down part of the car. Of course, Mercedes did not want to tell how this is channeled and where to, but this looks like it's giving them some performance after all. And the area where people are focusing as well is this one between the rear wing and the wheel, the rear wheel. Many people are introducing these little flaps here to try to channel the wind, and also here so they could seal the wind through the car and the bodywork and the wheels and try to get some extra performance. Alfa Romeo, we already said that they were going to change some stuff on the rear wing, like the supports. Also, you can see the wind is more upwards, perhaps some bending, not much. Ferrari, you can see these winglets, you see how many they have over here. Same thing like Mercedes. They have more than Mercedes actually, but it's a so significant amount of flaps over there. The front suspension, this actually was introduced in Imola and looks like they have perfected it slightly. This bendy thing over here. They have some bulky things over here, look like a bubble, to try to channel the wind in a different way. All the teams are working in the same. You can see it's flat here and it gets bendy over here. This is where the bodywork starts. You can see here it gets a little bit downwards, gets wavy shape. This is new as well, similar to Mercedes, or Mercedes similar to Ferrari. You can see also the rear wing. It's a high spec. You can see how much of pronunciation of the flap over here, which is the one, by the way, that gets elevated for the DRS use. This will be used in racetracks with high downforce like Monaco, for example. This is a closer picture of all these winglets between the rear wheel and the rear wing. Alpine also, they changed this one. This is more wavy than before, and also the pronounced high force rear wing. Now the qualifying. What can we say about the qualifying? I think it's one of the first times that I actually guess who's going to be the pole sitter. It was kind of obvious. I mean, Barcelona is Montmelo. It's one of the high downforce racetracks where, in theory, Ferrari has been stronger than Red Bull in this past Grand Prix. Red Bull has the high speed advantage. Ferrari has the slow and high speed corner advantage. He almost blew it up, but he fixed it with a super lap, and you can see that, well, Verstappen had a problem with the power, so he couldn't attack either. Could he have done the pole position? Who knows? But I mean, the difference between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz is quite big. And you can see here, actually, George Russell, he's going to start from the dirty side, but if he can manage to make a good start, who knows if he can get in front of Sainz. and the race pace is not that big different after all. Sergio Perez really disappointed with him. I mean, Albon 2.0, who knows? Lewis Hamilton, not so far from Russell. I don't know what was his issue, to be honest. It's not that big a difference either. Looks like Hamilton is struggling more with the car. However, both Mercedes drivers are extremely happy with the upgrades that Mercedes has brought to this Grand Prix. Porpoising has been lowered by a lot. They are not bouncing so much. They are gonna miss them in the International Space Station. So let's see if Mercedes actually can continue with the zero pod side pod concept. They can make it work. Is it gonna finally show its true potential? Perhaps not in this track, but looks like Mercedes, after all, are not gonna be lost for the rest of the year. You could see there, I clicked it by mistake. And you can see Bottas was expected to be there. Haas, I am a little bit surprised to see them there, being the only team that didn't bring any updates to this Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo, I actually said he was not going to be there, but you can see the difference between the Ricciardo, for example, and Kevin Magnussen, which is P8. It's a big difference. McLaren, let's not forget, he's trying to fix the issue with the brake temperatures, because they have a lot of issues with that. It was shown in Bahrain, they were really bad, and on the rest of the racetracks there was not such a high temperature. They fixed something for Imola, looks like it was working in Miami, and here looks like they are not gonna be that bad again. Could this mean that McLaren is working in the right direction since Bahrain? Obviously, yes, but they still have a lot of catch up to do. Norris, let's not forget, he had the time deleted for exceeding track limits in turn 12. And Mick Schumacher, that got Norris's position for Q3. Once again, similar to Perez, there is a big difference between Magnussen and Schumacher. He has to start performing, and I'm afraid he will not be in Haas next year. Norris P11, the lap time got deleted, not much there. Alpine with Ocon, that had the updates in his car, not in Alonso's car, got in P12. Could Alonso have been faster than him? We will never know. The tendency is that in theory Alonso should be faster. However, with the new upgrades, I don't know if Ocon would be faster or not. The two Alpha Tauris, let's not forget, Pierre Gasly had some issues in FP3. That's why he didn't have a lot of testing time, and perhaps could be the reason why he is there. Zhou Guanyu P15, quite far from Valtteri Bottas. Bottas is P7 and Guanyu Zhou is P15. That is a big difference, knowing that all the drivers have been in this racetrack many times. Of course, he's still the rookie, he's still learning about the car. However, it's a big difference. Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, two cars that didn't pass by very little time. You can see Alonso, in theory, got a Mercedes on his way. Nothing happened there. And Alonso said that he lost it there. It's kind of obvious that the Mercedes is on his way. However, I don't know why the stewards didn't analyze any of those things. Could be because Alonso, as per his usual behavior, challenges the stewards for Miami Grand Prix penalty. He's still under investigation for that, by the way. So he could be getting a huge fine. I really don't think they will have any effect on any Grand Prix, like grid penalties or sanctions of not participating in any of the Grand Prix. Vettel actually got very close to passing, even though he had some issues with his car. Lance Stroll, you can see that finally Vettel got ahead of Lance Stroll. Looks like Vettel is, after losing the two first Grand Prix, he is starting to be back on form. And the two Williams, not very big surprise there. Latifi is last, at a big difference from Alexander Albon. Analyzing what happened in FP1, by the way, De Vries was faster than Latifi. Then De Vries has not been in F1 so much. I think he did some testing for Mercedes, in recent years after winning the F2 championship. However, for the first time being in this car and in this Grand Prix with Latifi being slower than him, silly season rumors coming true, we will see in recent Grand Prix coming ahead. Usually, driver changes happen between the Grand Prix of Budapest and Belgium. Usually, Pierre Gasly got out by that. George Russell got confirmed for Mercedes in that Grand Prix internally, and all the changes in all the other years that were between drivers also happened for that Grand Prix. If we are expecting anything to happen, it will be in that Grand Prix, Belgium Grand Prix, more or less. Or if not, it will be in the last 4 to 5 races, so the new driver can start to get in touch with the new team. This is the moment where you can see this Mercedes getting on the way of Fernando Alonso, focusing the last chicane. He's clearly on the way. He was in the slowing down lap, and Alonso was in the fast lap. For me, it's kind of clear that it's on the way, and they didn't penalize him. This, by the way, is George Russell, number 63. I don't know. Leclerc's mistake in his first try in Q3. He went too aggressive in the last chicane and the car didn't take it. However, he did a super mega lap after that one and he got pole position for that. And George Russell, biggest surprise of the Grand Prix so far for me, and I think for everybody, taking into consideration the porpoising is almost out. However, Mercedes have a big issue still to solve. Russell was the fastest one of all of them in the first sector of the Grand Prix, the Q3. From all of them, Russell had the record of this first sector. However, he lost 0.2 behind on sector 2 and 0.6 finally in sector 3. So he lost 0.6 along the lap, starting considering that in the first sector he was the fastest one. Mercedes, for the first time as well in this Grand Prix, have been the ones that had the fastest straight line speed on Friday. So have they solved it? Looks like finally they can lower the car and the car is starting to be able to be analyzed as performing. Hopefully Mercedes can get into the challenge and we can have some more fun in the coming races. Let's remember my prediction for the Grand Prix. It was going to be that Charles Leclerc was going to be in pole position. Guessed it, obvious. I think the first 3 positions are going to be kind of the same. Perez, in theory, should go faster than Russell and the Mercedes is along the Grand Prix, starting also in 5th position on the clean side. He should overtake George Russell at the end of the straight. Red Bull also has a high straight line speed, so I think these 4 should be like this. Russell and Hamilton should be in this position. Bottas, P7, he qualified in P7. I think I'm going to miss this one, especially because there are rumors that Alonso is going to be going for a 3-stopping strategy since he already lost everything starting in P17. Lando Norris is starting in P11 and I still think that he will get into P10. And the battle for P10, considering that Magnussen is still there, it's going to be kind of hard one. I was not expecting Haas to be fast in this Grand Prix, to be honest. However, I will remain at Gasly, even starting in P14, if I'm not mistaken. I think Gasly is going to be the one who will take the 10th position. Now, let's talk about the race strategies. The pit lane losing time. The expected pit lane losing time is going to be around 20 seconds, 19.5, depending on how much stopping you do in the pits with the mechanics and changing the tires, which is the only thing you can change basically, unless you have the front wing damaged. Anyway, and the virtual safety car, as you can see, it's almost 10 seconds less. So there's Miami showed for Russell and other Grand Prix as well. Pitting under safety car, as long as the pit lane is open, it's so much more beneficial. Check out the difference. Here we have the 3 tires for the Grand Prix. The soft tire, the medium tire, the hard tire. Notice that everybody is going to be starting in the soft tire. The tire drop off. The soft tire obviously is going to be the most critical one. It will have a faster pace. However, it is expected that at some point around lap 35-ish, 37, let's say, they're expected to be completely dead. Not even Albon is going to be able to keep it that long. I am afraid. Nobody's going to be stopping that far. Why? Because at some point of the Grand Prix, it's going to be much, much worse. The hard tire and the medium tire are supposed to be the ones to be used unless you go for a three-stopper strategy. And you can see the medium and the hard tire. The hard tire is much more constant, however, it's slower on the beginning. This is the available tires for everyone in the Grand Prix. Russell has one new hard tire, two new medium tires, and three used soft tires, from which one will be the one that he will starting with. You can see everyone has no new tires almost. Stroll has some medium ones, but if you check all the front runners, none of them has anything new. Sebastian Vettel, Stroll starting at the back, Ricciardo. Nobody has new tires. Wait. Leclerc has a new soft tire. Oh, because he saved one yesterday. Okay. So this could be, this could mean a difference if he decides to go for a three-stopping strategy. Actually, he can have some advantage there. I don't know, for example, Verstappen, how many laps he will have in the used soft tire. And you can see as you go back on the grid, everybody has soft tires, which they didn't use in the qualifying because they didn't go far on the Q1, 2, and 3. Norris has one that he saved probably. Alonso has two that he saved probably. Anyway, this is going to be probably the strategy between mediums, softs, and maybe nobody will use the hard one. I think somebody will go to stopping and they will use the hard one, like especially if they're starting from the back. You can go for a medium and soft. Oh, however, this year you don't have to start with the tire that you qualified, right? It's free use. I forgot about that. Forget everything I said. I don't think anyone is going to be using the soft tire. I think this is going to be the strategy for the front runners, or this one. Quite obviously, it's difficult to overtake in this racetrack, so it's probably best if you stay outside and make the other guy overtake you. However, if they do use the soft one, they could go for it. I think this will be the one to be used for the front runners. If you're gonna be attacking, you will use this one, and these ones are more a little bit for kamikaze drivers. Using softs, we said soft can go for 35 laps, right? At best. It's not gonna be 35. Let's go back. They say 20 to 25 laps, and you are using 20% off. Almost 40%. Actually, could not be that bad, huh? Of course, it would mean that you would have to be out of traffic. I think it will depend a lot on what the people behind you are gonna be up to. Maybe Verstappen will go for this strategy. I mean, it's a racetrack that really punishes the tires. Using the soft tire to go for that long, it's a bit risky. It's not 20 laps. And as the tire goes on, it will, of course, you will lose the speed. I really don't think people, perhaps this one, strategy one, this one could actually be more reasonable. Could be, huh? Okay, I think like the front runners will use this one. The back markers will use this one. Why? Because for the front runners, what you want to do is go faster, actually, and not let people overtake you. If you put the medium and then the soft one and then Verstappen does this strategy, he will be in trouble. And the back markers, actually, if you do only one stop and then you go on the hard tire, you need to force other people to overtake you. And let's not forget that in the medium pack, and the backpack. There is not such a big difference in the rhythm of the cars. So, yep, okay. So that's gonna be. I think the first 6 are gonna be doing this strategy, unless you want to do something more aggressive, which will do this one or this one, and the back markers will be using this one. So 2 stopping strategy. I don't know who will be doing 3 stops. There are rumors on Twitter that Alonso might be going for a 3 stop. However, Alonso also is having to change the engine or the power unit, so he will be penalized on starting from the back of the grid. He will be starting 20th. This is a news that happened like not so long ago. So it's a bit difficult to predict the tire strategy. I think this one is going to be the most used one for the front ones. Anyway, already repeated that so many times. Anything that happens from here into the race is going to be pure coincidence. And see you after the race.